should be live here in a second.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
If you want to be a wise guy, you can do it anyway. If you want to be a strong man, you can do it anyway. If you want to be an Indian chief, cowboy, you can do it anyway. You can't do it anymore.
The most electrifying line in sports entertainment today. If you smell what the Rock is cooking, take me if you can. Survive if I let you. I'm figuring and thinking there's nothing to stop my soul man Randy Savage now. I'm the man. I'm the icon. And yes, you can't bow. I am God.
The number one show on the net, the needs and the best in your head like Goldberg Net. For the punks and the perverts, that'll work with Terry Funk and Knox Baker. Check Isman and Barbie, they got the cheap heat, so sit back and have a seat. They got questions from the fans, in your head is the man from Australia to Japan.
Take down the road, oh shit, man. Back throws up the Mississippi. I have crossed the plains and demons. We are bigger. We are faster. And we are all night long. All you idiots, punks, perverts, and fools, be sure and tune in and listen to this show.
And we're live here at In Your Head Wrestling Radio. I'm the internet icon, the pride of the Pilgrims, a whole bunch of other silly names, Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Dusty Wolfe. It's good to have you here. This has been years in the making.
Okay, if you say so. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, I asked you years ago, and for whatever reason, we never had it scheduled, so I'm glad that you're here now.
Okay, good. There's no telling what happened then.
So, first of all, like, how are you doing physically? You know, you retired years ago, because some people say that helps, and then some people say, you know, it's in a lot of ways it can make you feel worse because you're not, you know.
Well, I don't know if it's the retirement or it's just the fact that you get older. Like in my case, a lot of the injuries I didn't get them taken care of, and arthritis has set in, and I will have. I'll be on like about my 10th surgery in the last 10 years this summer. So I feel okay. You know, mentally, it's that joke. Mentally, my mind tells me I'm going to go do this or I'm going to go do that. And my knees and my back tell me the hell you are. You know, it's it's hard to say anything except it's rough once you start aging and then the injuries, they start adding up.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever, because you said you didn't get things like fixed, was there ever like one specific thing, or is it really just the culmination?
I should have had both my knees taken care of a time or two down through the years. Rest of it, yeah, it's just a culmination of 30 years in the wrestling business, and 4,000 or 5,000, probably 4,000 matches. And even if you're not leaving your feet much the last few years, you've taken thousands of bumps and just accumulation. Like I had to have a disc put in my neck, replaced in my neck. I have a device in my back that's electronically monitored, so I can. It's basically a painkiller, like a TENS unit, to keep me off the pills, or to keep me from having my back fused because my back looks like a Jenga.
I don't want to laugh at that, but yeah.
But it's true. When they showed me, said, well, you can do this little unit that you carry a remote control around, and you do, and you adjust it whenever it's time to adjust it, and it's that or a fusion. And I'm like, I didn't want to give a year of my life up to have the fusion, and I've had a hip replaced. I'll have both knees replaced by the end of the summer. So it just accumulates.
When you see, wrestling today and like people, doing more and more stuff, like Darby Allin and all these people, what do you think about that?
I
Because
think they're idiots.
all right.
They're tremendous athletes. Let's give them
Yeah.
credit. That you can't change the fact that they can do things physically. Even some of the smaller guys, they're still bigger than a lot of, a gymnast star and whatever. So, I mean, the fact that they can do some of that stuff, but they're idiots. None of them are working 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times a week. That's not happening anymore. But they make up for it in one night. And your body's not designed to do all that. It's not. Nobody, you could have told me the same thing at 20, 25 years old either. But, on the back end, you realize your body's not designed for all that.
I was going to ask that too, because were there people, when you were a wrestler and other people you knew that like the older generation be like, you guys are doing too much stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not too bad, because you realize in the early mid 80s up until the first couple of years in the 90s, guys still worked. They just went at a little faster pace than what the old timers had. Some of the old timers didn't like that, but the smarter guys realized that's just you're having to pick it up a little bit. I mean, it wasn't a complete change in everything compared to what's going on today. Today they don't work; they perform.
And it's because I still am a wrestling fan, but because I remember stuff like when I was a kid, and maybe it is because I was a kid or whatever. But people, they do so much stuff now, like I don't remember it from the next day. So
no, and that's their fault. I mean, and I get part of that. The system was different. We had to do, if we're in the territories, we had to do something in that same town once a week, once a month, every other week, however often that town was run. So we couldn't go out there and just do all this crazy stuff and leave it tonight, which is what the system is today. It's a TV show, and the few house shows they run, they're bigger events. They're not going to be back in those towns for who knows how long. So they can get by with doing some of that we could have never done, because how do we follow it next week?
How about the idea of not doing house shows? Because I see some of the older guys talk about like that's going to hurt in the long run. Even people like come up from NXT and they're only working 1 or 2 nights a week.
Eventually, because how else do you learn to work?
Yeah.
Or in this case, these guys perform. How you don't learn in the gym. The gym gets you ready. The school gets you ready. The school can prepare you, but you learn in the ring in front of people. And some of us took longer to learn than others. I mean, I was probably 4 or 5 years in the business before I got comfortable. And I was just listening and following, and up until then, And some guys learn on quickly. They do, but you learn in the ring. You don't learn in the gym.
So how old were you when you knew you wanted to be a wrestler?
Well, I was a kid. When I was probably about 13, 14, I was wanting to play. I was either going to play baseball or I was going to wrestle. That was my mind. I knew I was going to do one or the other. And I got sick as a kid, teenager, and I lost my chances to play baseball. So I just took a chance at wrestling and stuck it out.
Before you actually pursue it, what did you think wrestling was? Did you think it was all, this is all legit, or did you know what wrestling was? Or?
I knew there was some level of what I didn't know it was called working.
Yeah.
But I knew there was some level of showbiz. That was just impossible not to know that, especially as you get older. And I also knew there was some level of office manipulating things, because at one point in time when I was a little younger, and I was 12, 13 years old, I could see the Dallas tape, I could see the Amarillo tape, I could see the Wichita Falls tape all in the same weekend where I lived. And there were times where I would see Terry Funk working with Red Bastille. That's one of the first times I realized something's up. What I don't know yet, but because Red Bastille would go down Amarillo and be the heel, Terry Funk be the big baby face. Mm-hmm. Then I'd be watching the Dallas tape, and Funk would be the heel, and Bastille's the baby face, and they do the same match.
Yeah.
So But not too many people in those days had that where you were watching 2 and 3 and 4 tapes. You saw one and that was it. Yeah.
And how did you pursue to get into it? Because the internet's not around, so you can't like look up a wrestling school.
No, there was none of that. I knocked around on a couple of doors. I asked Joe Blanchard, and he's like, "Well, it's X amount of dollars, and we'll see what you got." Which meant he was going to stretch me and try to run me off. Right? Ken Johnson. We got to talking. I knew Jose Lothario, and Jose was pretty much the same way Joe was. It's X amount of dollars. We'll see what you can do. Ken's like, okay, let's see what you can do. I'm going to charge you up front. Anyway, he started training me, and I started working out with Ken. And I tell the story, but it's so true. The first time I got in the ring was the first time I got in the ring, because we were training in on mats. We were training in the Y, some old broke down gyms and places like that, places that had mats. But you couldn't get in the ring in those days unless the promotion said yes. And when we went down to the Junction, when they were doing TV one Monday, we were asking permission to let me get in the ring. And I'd already met a couple of the guys with Joe. So, I mean, it wasn't like I was some just kid off the street, right? Mm-hmm. Not completely. So they needed somebody for the Mongolian Stomper to beat up. It had never been seen. And that was the first time I ever set foot in the ring.
Oh, wow. So that was what was that like? Is it,
I don't remember.
Mongolian Stompers ripped for people,
I don't remember. I was so scared, so nervous. I don't remember. I was 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I knew I wasn't ready because I had only been, like I said, I could trade holes with guys and I could do a few things like that. And I had been smartened up a little bit, but I couldn't work with a guy like Archie Goldie. Mm-hmm. And I knew it, but I was so scared. All these years later, I still don't remember. I don't remember anything about the match.
That's pretty wild. So you don't remember like how long it was or anything? Like,
no, I've never even seen it on TV. I've seen a lot of stuff from Southwest, and I've seen a lot of stuff from Texas All-Star down through the years.
Do you remember the feedback at all? Like once you go back,
they told me I was greener in grass, but I already knew that. Yeah. And, it wasn't like they were giving me any info to help me. I already knew I was the shits. I mean, some people tell you I stayed that way for the next 30 years, but I definitely was that night. Like I said, I had never hit the ropes. I had never been in a ring. I didn't have any kind of ring awareness or anything. None of that. None.
After that happens, do you think like maybe this isn't for me, or do you know like, oh no, I'm still going to do this?
I've never been one to just quit. There's a lot of times I should have, whether it was wrestling or something else, but I was like, no. I knew I hadn't been trained completely yet, even though Kenny's a sweetheart. I love him, even he's gone now, but he's been my best friend forever. And but he didn't have the place to train me properly, and I knew it. But I also knew, well, maybe I've got my foot in the door, and I did. And then Luke and Butch and Jonathan, the sheepherders, they took a liking to me. And when they took the book over, Joe put me with Don Carson, had Kenny working with, Kenny and me were working with Don Carson to help teach me. Mm-hmm. And I would go to the Junction like 3 days a week. And after about 6-8 months, like I say, John, Luke, and Butch were running Southwest by then. And they took a liking to me, and they gave me my first break.
So were you Dusty Wolfe right at the beginning? Or?
Well, I used Woods in the beginning because everybody had me convinced I didn't want to use my real last name in my hometown.
All right.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm green. I'm 20. At this time now I'm 20. I'm like, oh, you know better than I do.
Yeah.
But that was the only place I ever used the last name Woods. Other than every time it was, just Dusty Wolfe everywhere else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What did your family think at the time? Because you said you're 19 and you're 20. Like, did they try to talk you out of it? Were they supportive?
My mom did. I don't really have a dad. I've got a sperm donor, but I don't really have a dad. My mom did. And I was in college. I wasn't full-time, but I was in college. And she's like, well, what about college? And I'm like, and I remember making the comment to her, I can always go back if this doesn't work out. I'm only 19, Mom. Yeah. She's like, okay. I went back to college when I was 47.
That's we'll jump around a little bit. Like, what was that like? Actually, that experience to go back to school.
I had no
in
idea
your
what I
late
was doing when I walked in there either.
40s.
That's the story of my life. If it's something
Lenardi
I make
Goldie
up
was
my mind
there.
I'm
You're
going to
like, well,
do,
what's
I
he
do
doing?
it. I figure it out, and a lot of times I'm figuring it out as I'm doing it because I figure if I don't give it a try, if I don't just do, I'm going to talk myself out of it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So, I walked in, and I had no clue what was going on. I just knew I needed college, and so I started back.
Yeah. So back to the sheep herders are there. How much longer was that promotion around? Because when did you start to like realize that the territories are starting to dwindle? Or was that
We
much later?
we knew things weren't right as early as '85,
Mm-hmm.
but you're in the system and you're trying to survive, and you see the promotions working hard to survive, and you believe they're going to make it. By '87, I knew that the territories couldn't last. I still hung on to the belief that once the old territories died, that a few years later there would be places in the country that small organizations could run
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis because Vince couldn't get to them, couldn't
Yeah,
afford
yeah.
to. I'd never realized that the guys that were going to be trying to do that were usually their own worst enemies. So, but yeah, as early as '85, you knew things were up. Harley races in New York.
Mm-hmm.
He's not running Kansas City anymore or St. Louis. He's Eddie Graham's gone. Things like that. Just that you knew the things. The writing was on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You just whether you believed it or not.
So during that period, like, are you still like, should I go back to college now, or are you just like,
No,
yeah,
no. I had faith in myself. Probably even when I shouldn't have, I did. And I was fairly fortunate. I may have been out of work, a month here or a month there, but I was pretty fortunate. I could go from Kansas City or Puerto Rico or places like that. I wasn't going to make a fortune, but I was making something, and I was doing okay. And then when it started getting to be late '86, it was getting rough on the territory. And that's when I started making a couple phone calls to New York.
So who did you know anyone there? Like
Terry Garvin.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the office. Everybody knows that by now.
Yeah. So Terry Garvin, which maybe some people have. What was he like in your opinion, Terry Garvin?
I think the world of Terry. I don't respect some of the things that turned out that he was involved in.
Mm-hmm.
But he was running the Kansas City office when I went the first time. And then he went to New York in that '85, '86 time range, somewhere there. And he and Pat Patterson and Vince and that whole group, they kept me busier than they ever had a reason to. Treated me well, better than anybody else ever treated me.
Mm-hmm.
As far as in the United States with territories and offices and something. I was almost heartbroken when I heard the depths of everything that went on.
Yeah. Because I assume that's not something that he's talking about openly with you.
No, especially with a guy like me that he knows is not into any of that. And evidently that wasn't his style to begin with, but we got along at a personal and professional level, and
Mm-hmm.
it did. Sometimes when your friends or your bosses or both, they turn out to be less than you think. That's a rough lesson, especially as a kid. You're in your mid-20s, and all of a sudden things are just not what you thought. Yeah.
So when you go there, like, that you're going to be, enhancement talent.
Yeah,
like,
I was told before I ever started.
Mm-hmm.
I was told before I ever started on the first phone call I ever had with anybody, and I was like, if you're paying what I hear you're paying, and I told Terry this on the phone. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because you're paying as much in one night as I'm making out here in a week.
And how were you treated? You said, like the management treated you really well. How do other wrestlers treat you?
Most of the boys did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They knew I was one of the boys. I wasn't just some guy coming in from the gas station to do a TV and then never be seen again. I had been in territories with some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I had worked angles with some of them. Now I'm putting them over, but that's the way the business goes, right? I didn't see anything out of the boys until the wrestling school guys started coming along at the end, 92, 93 before I left.
So they had like a different attitude?
Yeah, because they didn't know. They had never been in a territory.
Because everyone else knows you came up basically the same way through the territory.
Harder than most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't have anybody. I had Ken, and Ken didn't have anything more than I did in this business. Kenny Timms helped me quite a bit, but he wasn't much further up the totem pole than I was. The promoters that did book me or the bookers that booked me was because they liked me. It wasn't because of a family favor or anything like that. So, yeah.
So during that time, are you under like a contract? Because, I saw you all the time. You weren't,
I never signed
you weren't
one
a
piece
local
of
guy who
paper.
was just there once in a while.
I never signed one piece of paper. 6 years, I never signed one. I take that back. I signed one contract that we were required to sign for England. We had to sign some kind of agreement for England that we would pay our English taxes or our British taxes. And that is the only thing I ever signed.
So, what do you think of the because I said enhancement talent, what do you think of the word jobber?
It's derogatory, but I'm over it now because I realize the average person using that term is just trying to make themselves feel better for whatever reason. For whatever reason, they want to feel superior to the guy on TV that, 3 minutes the match is over. They want to feel superior to that guy. And it's usually people who've never set foot in the ring, but if you give them a chance, they would. Not always, but usually.
Yeah.
And I had to accept that. It was just one of those downward comparison type things.
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized that, it quit bothering me. Boy, it did there for a while. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I get that. And also like, how would you feel when like it becomes, now everyone on the internet knows all these terms, the
Right.
kayfabe, and I always even feel kind of weird saying it because I'm not, in the business really. So I've done like local commentary or something, but so when you're online, maybe like you said, you're over it now, but when you first get online and these are words that people use all the time, not even just the fact that they know them, but they throw out around words like jobber.
They're going to try to use insider terms because they want to feel like they belong. They want to feel important.
It is weird because even when I watch other stuff now, I see the term kayfabe on like TV shows, and I was like, God, this is like, does
Some of the terms come from the carnival.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Some of them come from the straight from the carnival, not just because it's we call it carny or it's literally just the carnival terms. And I'm sure there are people that know about the carnival that had nothing to do with wrestling too. So
yeah, I think most of the people use it today do think it's just wrestling.
I'm with you because since Hogan in the '80s and then Austin in the '90s and The Rock, wrestling's become so mainstream that I don't doubt it.
Yeah. So how about Pat Patterson? Because I've had people on who absolutely love Pat Patterson, and they say he might have joked with people, and people take that too seriously or whatever.
Exactly.
And then I've had people who say, he's a bad guy. So
I never had an issue with Pat. Pat was on that list of guys that they didn't have to take care of me like they did.
Mm-hmm.
I never had an issue with him. Maybe I wasn't his type. I don't know. I mean, one way I'm grateful because then I never had to face any of that harassment or that some of the guys talk about. I never saw it because
my gut is that it was like, because I could see how everyone knows he's gay, so you make these jokes with like you people around you, and most people be like, just that's a joke, who cares? And then someone who is maybe kind of homophobic would take that, oh my God, like you said.
For a business that's got half-naked men every night of the world, there's a whole lot of homophobic guys in a business that's nothing but oiled up half-naked men.
Uh-huh.
It really is.
And
it doesn't help when you're the boss because you're going to fire somebody or you're going to tell them that was wrong and then you're going to make them mad. And that's not saying he didn't do something wrong with somebody somewhere. I'm not saying he didn't, but I never had an issue.
Yeah. So, if you don't have just a contract when you're in England that time, so do you just like, you're just on tour with everybody and
whenever they would talk to me and put me to, They would call me. Can you make these towns? Sure.
And at that same time, you're working like territories, or were you just
So by then the territories were pretty much dead.
Yeah.
I was still working some independent. By now I'm working some independents, and I learned that when I wasn't working for Vince, that I could use Vince's travel to pick up independent shows wherever I was at, and so I did that instead of just sticking around Texas. But yeah, I'd go overseas, like in the summer when they would go up north and stay in Canada and the northern states and so forth. I'd go to Singapore, or I'd go to Africa for 2 or 3 weeks, that sort of thing.
Did they ever offer you like, because you did Doink, but were you one of the Doinks on WWTV?
No, but I only did it just a little bit, just in passing with them. And then I did it on the independent scenes. In fact, one of the African promoters said, "Can you do it?" I heard rumors that you had done it. And I said, I did like 3 times or 4 times, nothing.
Yeah.
And, well, can you do it? I said, well, yeah, pay me. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to tell me don't ever do it again when I get back. And they're not likely to hear about it in Africa. And they didn't. But others heard the, word spreads through the grapevine. So all of a sudden I'm doing it everywhere. And Percy Pringle told me more than once, he says, the office knows what you're doing. The office is okay with it. In fact, the office called me one time and said, just don't get arrested in the outfit. There was like 3 things. Don't use it on somebody else's TV. Don't get arrested in the outfit. That was those are the 2 I remember. And there was like a third. Don't do it.
I like that. Don't get arrested. That would be bad. Like you get arrested.
Yeah. Well, you know who was the first?
Fair point. Yeah.
And I got nothing against him personally, but let's just be honest. We know who the first one was.
Yeah.
But there was a third. There was a third rule. And if I didn't break those 3 rules, and I forget the third one now, it's been that long now. They didn't.
And they must not have trusted him, because I don't think they let other people do Doink, but I don't think they ever let him.
They didn't let him do it again. No.
I even saw him at conventions, and he would, I forget what he called us something else. He had like the smeared makeup.
Born Again or something.
Born Again. Yeah.
No, they knew I was just trying to make a living, and I had been loyal to them and done anything they asked for all those years, and they weren't bringing me back, and they knew they weren't bringing me back. So why stop me from making a living?
Yeah. And what was Percy Pringle like? Because he's one of the first people that ever said yes to come on the show, and we started in 2005, and just a wonderful guy.
Great guy. I mean, if you didn't want to know Percy's opinion on something, you didn't ask him. And there were times you didn't have to worry about asking him. You're going to hear it anyway. Well, Percy was one of those guys. I loved him because I knew where I stood with him at all times. And I knew if he told me he had my back, he had my back on whatever the situation was. I love Percy. He was a great guy.
You wrestled in, did you wrestle for the Von Erichs? Okay. Because I actually honestly didn't know that, but I saw when I was looking at your essays and your books on Amazon, you did one on Lance Von Erich. And so how long were you there?
About 4 or 5 months, 6 months. Yeah. But then I worked for every Dallas office that opened up after that too. So I was in that sportatorium for 10 years, whether it was World Class or
cool.
Rockets NWA or Global. I
was a big fan of Global because it came on every day as soon as I came home from school. So it was like perfect timing.
Global was great for guys like me, Mike Davis, Black Bart, that we lived in Texas, and that Global showed. And then, independent guys here in Texas wanted to run shows. At least 1 or 2 of us was on those shows all the time because it was free TV for them. So by then I knew that was what Global was about, and I used it for that. I was filling my dates.
Yeah. Did you think like it had a chance to take off when it started? I mean, well, even till the end, like it was really loaded with talent. A lot of people that went on to become huge. Mick Foley.
Talent was great. Talent was great in a lot of places. But by the time you got past WrestleMania 3, Vince had convinced people so much that he was wrestling and Hogan was wrestling, and then the rest of the crew, Savage on down, that no matter how great a worker somebody may have been, whether it was in Memphis or Dallas or wherever, they weren't going to be seen as the same. They just weren't. Hardcore fans, okay, they loved it and they would show. but those hardcore fans weren't going to pay you bills.
Mm-hmm. And did you know that yourself? Like, WWE is like a WWF.
Oh, I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it. I lived it. I would, like I said, like a couple of summers during that time period, especially like when the steroid trials and all that started, like in 91, 92, and they'd gone to 2 shows a night, and they were going up north, and that's when I went to Singapore, and then I went to Africa both that same summer. And no matter where you went, they didn't call it wrestling; they called it the WWF.
Right, yeah.
They'd had wrestling in those places for decades, but the people didn't call it wrestling anymore. They called it the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I knew the takeover is complete. I don't care what Crockett tries. I don't care who comes after Crockett. The takeover is done. Yeah.
Do you, obviously AEW exists today, but do you think that just the way it will always be?
What's that?
That WWE will always be the number one promotion?
No, everything ends.
Mm-hmm.
We may not see it, but everything ends. And I don't think AEW is the one to take it over. I really don't. I don't. But what little bit I've seen, what I'm seeing start to take place is the WWE is going to self-destruct because it's too corporate. People thought it was too corporate 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're getting into so many different places. I think they're going to be hotter than ever for about 5-10 more years. And then they're going to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's already, obviously it's like not in a decline, but it's in a decline from it was just like a year ago.
And I think they're going to be hot as can be for the next few years because of the ESPN contacts and the Saudi money. If that part of the world doesn't just self-destruct itself, they've got a good 5-year run. And after that, I see it just.
So Terry Funk's another guy like I talked to a lot too and was on the show a lot. And he said something I always remember. He said, like, the more wrestling becomes like a TV show, the less like it has he always said that was like the worst thing that it could call itself because sports like, football, baseball, they're just gone forever. Like, they don't go away. But TV shows, no matter how big they are, they eventually get canceled.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you're a big TV fan or not, but NCIS and SVU, right. They've been around for 20, 25 years, and that's outrageous. The Simpsons is 30.
Yeah, or like Bonanza or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the average TV show makes it, 3 to 6 years, and that's it. And in one way, what Bischoff did when he made wrestling a TV show instead of wrestling, which it was all Bischoff. This wasn't Vince. This was Bischoff. Vince had to follow because of everything that was going on. We're still in a time period. The only thing I think is changing, the saving things now is that they do change the talent over some. But they're so super saturating everything now and intersecting all the different TV shows and everything now. I just don't. I could be wrong, but I see it self-destructing in 5 to 10 years.
I think it was just today. They said I didn't even know that he could not be re-signed, but that they just Triple H signed a new contract, and it was even that to me was just kind of weird because you just think I didn't even know he had to sign a new contract. I just thought he is WWE, but
not anymore though, because that TPA they
it's
own everything now. Yeah. So the wrestling business. You haven't had the wrestling business since territories died, but the wrestling business is business. It was a family thing. It was a family owned, family operated wherever you went, and. I don't begrudge anything that happens. I mean, some people get bitter and it's all changed so much, but the select few are making some good money, making outrageous money, But what can they do? How much longer can they go? Like you said, TV shows just die off eventually. People lose interest. They move on.
Mark U.S. Lawton, in those days of enhancement talent, can you explain why they were more important than the superstar?
Who are you going to beat if you have the superstars in the ring with each other every week? We were, wrestling in the territory days, TV wrestling was a 1 hour advertisement or 2, depending on what territory. it was an advertisement for all the house shows that week. That was where the money came in, was the gates.
Mhm.
And if I beat the guys I'm trying to draw with, I'm trying to sell tickets with, if I beat them on that TV in the center of the ring, 1, 2, 3, like I do enhancement talent, why would somebody come and pay to see it? You had to have guys that could go out there and some didn't have to be able to work because you had some guys that were just going to get crushed, and I had those matches too. But you also had to have guys like myself or Horowitz or whatever that could have a match with somebody because it was the way you were building that person.
Mhm.
But you still got beat in the center of the ring, 1, 2, 3. And the house was never hurt. The gate was never hurt. And that's why it was so important. I can't make us. Not everybody can be the star.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I've been watching wrestling since I was a little kid in the early '80s, and it was really the Monday Night Wars when basically they all became, star
It
versus star.
changed. I don't know if wrestling would have survived with the enhancement situation or not going forward.
Mhm.
But if you wanted to blame anybody, again, this is Bischoff. He wanted to make a TV. He didn't care about wrestling. He wanted to make a TV.
Mhm.
And he knew that he couldn't create the excitement and the moments.
And I think a big part of it is that they were head to head. So the idea is like we can't
And so
have
he was,
this match, and
he was creating moments that kept you entertained on the TV. And if you noticed, you go back in history, this is the time period in which WCW quit running house shows.
Mhm.
Or if they did, it was like one every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's very, very few. Yeah.
Yeah. Because even though he did this with the TVs, which only hurts the business in the long run, he didn't continue to try to run house shows, knowing he was giving people everything on the TV.
Right. I mean, there was even time, the Goldberg match when he wins the title, like it's on free TV and not on a pay-per-view.
And some of that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But that was the whole competition thing. And okay, you're here. No, I got to get here. No, he went here. I got to go here. And that's what, it was the old theory in the old days when the house shows. Well, if I do everything this week, what do I come back with?
Rib shot. Dusty, how was wrestling the Ultimate Warrior?
He was stiff. I mean, the stories you've heard are true. He was stiff. And it wasn't like I was having house matches with him either, where I was having to do 10, 15 minutes. It was 2 minutes and 3 minutes and done. Thankfully, he liked me because I knew him when he was breaking in down in Dallas. We were in Dallas at the same time. I can only imagine how rough he was on some of the guys that he didn't know or didn't like.
Mm-hmm. I saw one of your essays on Amazon is, about being Zeus's handler. So, how did that come about?
They called me. I was at home one day. I was watching TV with my oldest. He was little then. He had just come home from kindergarten. And the phone rings. It's Terry Garvin. He says, I got a proposition for you. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking this is going to be good. And in one way it was. I mean, I ended up making some serious cash. He laid it all out for me. The movie had just finished, and they were going to have Zeus go to all the towns, challenge Hogan, blah, blah, blah. He had no clue how to get around, which you couldn't take. In those days, you couldn't take somebody and just drop them into the machine because you were 11 towns in 11 days, 11 hotels, 11 flights. And then you had 3 days off, and then you were right back. 4 days, and then 3 days. So you could, if you didn't have an idea of what was going on in the wrestling business and travel and whatnot. And so that was the job. And I would get paid per day, whether I worked or not, in the ring. And then if I worked that night, I got that payday too. And I ended up working a lot of the nights. I mean, not every last night, but I worked a lot of the nights. And that was the job. That was it. And it was up to me they would give us our booking sheets just like everybody else. They would have the cars lined out for us. They'd have the hotels lined out for us. I just had to make sure he was on the flight, in the building, and in the next town. Kind of like Tim White did with Andre.
Mhm.
Even though Andre knew how to get himself around, it was the same type of situation.
No, would he ask? Would Zeus ask like any like questions about like to become a better wrestler or anything like this while you guys were traveling around?
A little bit. Once it became obvious that they were going to put him in the ring and those couple pay-per-views that they did, a little bit. He was more like, how do I get along with the guys? Because there was a lot of resentment towards him when he first came in.
Yeah.
And some of it was on him because he was I don't want to call him arrogant, but he was definitely reserved. And he didn't know where he was. He was nervous. He didn't know where he was at. He didn't know what he was in the middle of. And, and then you have him coming in and making top money while these guys have been busting their ass for years. And so he was like, how do I handle this? How do I deal with this? And that was a lot of conversations. Now, that was the wrestling, Zeus's whole thing. Don't mind me, I have to move my back every once in a while.
Okay.
Zeus's whole thing with wrestling was it's only like 3-4 matches. Hogan took him with Savage, me, Patterson, Beefcake. And we would go to the Sportatorium in Tampa, the old TV building for Eddie Grant. And they would just, this is all we want you to do. And they would go through it with you. And they would do this on days off. And that's how they got him ready for, like I said, it was only 3 matches total, 4.
Yeah.
But that's how they got him ready.
Well, would you say he was a good guy? Because you said there's like resentment to him, and you said
There was
something like
resentment towards him. Yeah, I mean, we had a problem one time, and that's it. Otherwise, he understood what he was doing. He understood where he was at. I even explained it to him. These guys have been busting their asses for years. Some of them making, $40, $50, $60 a night until they got here. And now that they're here, they're making decent money, but it's not what you're making. You just walked in. Whether it's right or wrong, you got to understand that some of them are going to resent that. I said, because not everyone is going to realize that if you pop a house, their paydays are better. They just realize you're getting the main event payoff while they're getting the middle of the card payoff. And, we had those kind of conversations. And once we had those kind of conversations, and I'll give Tino and DiBiase credit, they went a long way with like sitting down with him and talking to him. And, well, he's right. He's telling you the truth. This is where you're just going to have to relax around the boys a little bit.
Did everyone know he had those matches and that would be the end? Was there ever like, maybe if this works out, we're going to keep him? He'll be like,
there was an offer. There was an offer. He would never have me in the meetings when they discussed money. But when they would discuss like towns and something of that nature, he would have me with him. So, because that way when it was done, he's like, does that sound right? Or that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And they had just had that December pay-per-view that was added just out of the blue because that's how strong Zeus and Hogan were drawn. And it was that night. Wherever we were at. Pat called him into the office and he waved, and both of them waved me to come in, and I come in, and he's like, we want to put you on the road starting in January when we come back in January. Same type of tours you've been doing, 11 on, 3-4 off, 3-4 on, 3-4 off, that sort of thing. We'll work you from the bottom back up to Hogan. And they didn't make a money offer for me. Like I said, they never discussed money for me. But he says, Dusty can continue with you, that sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, that great, right? But he won't do it. He didn't want to do it. The grind. It was just too much of a grind for him.
Yeah, because he's also not. He continued to be in movies, And
he did some good stuff, and he made a little money for himself. And I didn't begrudge him that. I was disappointed, but I didn't.
Of course.
I wasn't mad at him. I just was disappointed.
Yeah. You bring someone else in for me to drive around.
Yeah. Well, they told me that I could. Tim White was going to go into the office, and I could help with Andre. It would do the same thing with Andre that I had been doing with Zeus. Like that was in December when we had the Zeus conversation, and then like the first TV in January, right after the new year. Pat pulls me outside and says, I know Tim White's going into the office and blah, 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 and he's going to stay close to home. Put you with Andre. Well, Andre couldn't come to an agreement with Vince like that month. That was when his contract was up. So there went that deal too.
Were you around Andre a lot? Was he around, backstage during those times?
Yep. That one was great. I mean, because he knew I respected the business. He knew I respected the people in the business. I'd play cards with him and laugh with him. I couldn't keep up drinking with him, but everything else, we'd travel. He'd get good boss. Come on. He'd put me on the little golf cart in the airport. That way I didn't have to walk in the airport. And I go on with him great.
So I saw that you did a dark match on this Tuesday in Texas for Sir Charles, who goes on to be Papa Shango and the Godfather. So what was that gimmick, Sir Charles, and what was he like?
That was just whatever he was doing on the Independence, and it was just the Undertaker got him in there to get him looked at, and they liked him. So.
Did you think like he had something? I mean, he's obviously.
I knew they were signing him. I knew they were signing him. All I had to do was take one look at him.
Yeah.
And then when I worked with him, and 3-4 minutes later, I knew he was signed.
Was it like? I mean, I don't know, but was it his look? Is it his connection to Undertaker? Because they would give him chances throughout the years, like they'd always bring him back as something.
Both. Vince was always the big guys, and he loves them. Mm-hmm. Still does. And then the connection to the Undertaker. Both.
And he seems like he's probably like a fun person to have around.
Okay. I mean, there's only a handful of guys I didn't get along with, but the majority of them you could get along with because we were all in the same boat trying to row it the same direction.
Who were the guys you didn't get along with?
Davey, Dynamite. Oh. Davey a little bit once Dynamite was gone, but when Dynamite was around, I couldn't get along with Davey either. The Beverly Brothers. Those are the ones that come around. Chavo Sr. Those are the ones that come off.
Okay. Yeah. What was it about that? Because as a kid, so I see them as the Destruction Crew, in AWA.
Yeah.
And I always thought they were like really like a good team. And then Beverly Brothers gimmick just was odd, but there were guys that never did a lot in the wrestling business. So
they were dangerous.
Okay. And
when the word gets out that guys are dangerous, it's tough for an office, especially an office, to push them. In the old days, there'd always been somebody that would have pushed them because, like you say, they had a good look, they were good size. They weren't bad workers; they just were dangerous workers. But you can't have that in a corporate situation like Vince.
I remember their finisher, like
it wasn't just that finisher either.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that finish either. They were just dangerous.
Uh-huh.
They would just drive you whenever they would slam you on anything she played. They would drive you. They wouldn't just let you take the bump.
Do you think that's probably why they just didn't?
You can't have guys like that.
Yeah, and they're not Hulk Hogan or something. Not that he's dangerous, but they're not.
No.
How about Hulk Hogan himself? Because you said you were doing some stuff with him and Zeus, to get Zeus ready. What was Hulk Hogan like?
That's another one that when you find out later what was going on, you're just like, I'm depressed because he always treated me well. Mm-hmm. He was like Funk and a couple others. They knew that you were there to do, to get them over, and they respected you. Not all the guys like that did, but the smart ones did. And Hogan always treated me with respect. Later you start hearing the things and seeing the things, and you just shake your head, and you're just well, you can't do anything about it. They're adults, but you get disappointed.
Yeah. Along those lines, so Vince McMahon,
same thing.
You have a lot of interaction with him, and
not a lot, but what little bit I did, it was always very straightforward, very honest, which is not something you can say about a lot of wrestling promoters. Again, he kept me around. He didn't have to. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to. And then you start seeing all the things. I told somebody one time, and I told my wife also, I said, the idea that things were going on behind the scenes doesn't shock me. It's the levels. That's what I was just like, I couldn't believe it. But then I could, but I mean, it was just like I didn't want to believe it, but I did. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because like, so did you know of things at that time? I'm not saying you knew, like you said, the levels, but did you know
You
like things
knew.
were happening?
You knew. We would hear the stories. Yeah, we knew.
Was it just like, he has women or stuff like that?
Yeah,
Like really depraved things or
no, there's none of that. You didn't hear those stories. You just
Yeah.
heard, he had a woman here, a woman there. You heard a story about Linda having a male escort, making sure that the bills ended up on his desk after she'd caught him with somebody, things like that. You heard those stories. I mean, so there wasn't like there was huge secrets, but just the levels of depravity. I'm like, good God.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone would probably agree with that.
There's no excusing that. I'm
No.
sorry. It's not.
Yeah, and you don't even know like if there's worse stuff because some of the
Yeah.
people he supposedly paid or he did pay
Yeah.
NDAs or even a lot more money. So
Yeah.
what the hell's going on there?
Yeah, if that's what you're hearing about, what are you not hearing about? Yeah, to me, it's just disappointing
Yeah.
because these were people that were a big part of my world.
Yeah, even just as someone who grew up watching it my whole life, it's
Yeah.
it's weird, but then to actually be part of it, it's just different.
Yeah.
So at that time though, how were women treated in wrestling? Because today's definitely very different. Like I would think a lot of the women
You were
are
in the
just treated
transition
differently.
stage of the Moolah years
Right.
into treating the ladies like equals.
Mhm.
It was that transition time. There were still levels of the Moolah years, but while I was there, Moolah became a non-factor for a while. Then she came back after I was gone. But they didn't have a great spot in the wrestling business when I started. They didn't. I mean, we know the stories and so forth. But they started getting away from that.
Mhm.
Things started to improve for them while I was there. Yeah. Lilani and Judy, they changed a lot. They changed a lot for the girls. The girls today should be thankful for those two.
Yeah, definitely. And then I don't know, like if you're around like Medusa a lot, but people like I would say Medusa.
Not a lot, just a little bit in Puerto Rico and a couple of places like that, but not a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, even as a kid, like Leilani Kai and Judy Martin, like I could tell, these are like good wrestlers, like
Yeah, Moolah would train decent workers, but Moolah would never train one to be better than Moolah.
Mhm.
And she would never get the best treatment for them out of the promoters either because she didn't care.
Yeah. So Shawn Michaels is another very divisive guy. Who's actually been on the show. So what were your thoughts of Shawn Michaels?
I've known Shawn since he started. I've known Shawn since he first walked into the junction. I haven't seen him in probably 15 years, but I've known him. At Lance Cage funerals last time I saw him. Or Blanchard's, one of the two. Whoever died after the other is the last time I saw Shawn.
Any thoughts on
I
it?
was around him all the time or not all the time, but a good bit of time. 10, 15 years. Whether it was here in San Antonio, Kansas City.
How much difference do you see like the change in him as a person? Obviously he's always like a good wrestler.
What I see, I mean, because I'm not sitting there talking to him.
Right.
But what I see, yes, I see a man that's much more content with himself than he was back then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And mentioned the stiffness of the Beverly Brothers. A finisher that I always loved, and actually FTR does it today, but no one did it. No one did it for years. Was the Power and Glory finish? I always thought that was like a super cool finish. Did you ever take that like the superplex? It was like Hercules gave the superplex, and then
that wasn't an issue because Herc was easy, Roma was easy. That one wasn't. It's just you had to be ready. I mean,
you assume the timing would have to be good.
Timing, yeah, you had to be ready. You had to know what you're doing.
I just thought it was like a super cool finish. I always wondered why like no one really did it after
you weren't getting hurt with those two.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I was always a big Hercules fan, actually.
Herc's one of those guys that hurt himself too much in the back, behind the scenes, because he had the look, he had everything, but sometimes he'd just be his own worst enemy.
What do you mean by that? Like,
just get an attitude and he didn't want to do something, or he didn't like what was said to him, and just just he would speak up when maybe he shouldn't have been speaking up yet, because he wasn't being abused. He just had enough of something, and he just caused himself problems on occasion.
How about the Iron Sheik, someone that was in and out of WWF, forever?
That's another one that you knew who you were dealing with. You knew what was going on. He's one of those guys that's almost impossible to not like him. I mean, because he was a real life cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think some people don't realize that he was like a really good wrestler at one
Oh,
time.
he was an amateur champion, bodyguard. The bodyguard stories are true. He was a bodyguard for the Shaw and stuff like that. I mean, it's the truth. One time we were in Arizona. I don't remember if we were in Arizona or Arizona State, but it was in the early 90s when both those colleges were like the two of the top amateur programs in the nation. And he's like, Bubba, I'm going to go work out if anybody's looking for me. So I'm like, okay. And about 2 hours later, somebody asked, have you seen the Sheik? And I said, I think I know where he's at. And so I went. He was in the workout room with the college amateur team, and he'd been going through all of them and hanging with them. And he's just dripping sweat, and he's showing them all kinds of things and whatever. And he's, excellent. He was that good. He was in there with like national level champions and just showing them stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was pushing 50 by then.
Was it like to get in the ring with like the really like, I don't know, like the Natural Disaster? Someone is like really big. Is it hard to work with those guys?
Depends on how clumsy they are. Like Tenta was not clumsy. Tenta was easy. Fred's the nicest guy around, but he would like step in your mouth if you were laying on the mat, or he'd step on your hand.
We saw that when he tripped as his famous trip. So.
Yeah, he was clumsy, and that made him dangerous because he's over 400 pounds. Yeah, a man like that steps on your ankle or something. But he wasn't like he was stiff and harming because he was stiff. He was clumsy.
Mm-hmm. But John Tenta, is a sumo wrestler.
Yeah,
Tenta was big. He's very athletic at the same time.
Night off for a big man like that.
And from what I understand, one of the nicest people in wrestling
was too nice.
That no one ever says anything bad about.
He was too nice.
Actually, along those lines, is there such a thing as being too nice? Because maybe you don't go as far as you can.
Yeah, if you don't stand up for yourself, sometimes the office will run right over you. Or you got a guy that wants to get a little stupid in the ring, and you're like, I don't need it, or I don't want, or like in my case, I don't want to lose my job.
Right.
And so you end up taking a little bit of abuse. Yeah, there's such a thing as being too nice in the wrestling business. Oh yeah.
So when Dusty Rhodes comes in, you become Dale Wolfe. Was there like a conversation there?
Uh-huh. I'd already done it in Florida. When I went into Florida with the blonde gimmick, Eddie Graham came in there and he introduces himself to us. We introduce ourselves to Eddie Graham, tell him our names. He says, well, that's not going to work. In Florida, it made sense to me in Florida why it wasn't going to work. So I said, all right, just use my middle name. Dale. All right. So we did. And then like 5 years later, I'm in New York and I'm sitting at lunch and Pat's like, I need to have a talk. And I'm like, oh, here goes my career, right? And he's like, Dusty Rhodes is coming in. I said, okay, good. What's he got to do with me, right? He's just got to change your name. And I had just invested in a pair of new boots, trunks, and everything with my initials on them. I said, so I've already seen this once. Just use my middle name. And that's how that came about. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's funny though, that there actually is. It's, I always would hear that kind of stuff in my mind. I'm like, oh, what's the matter? But I will say it gets confusing in like AEW, which I am an AEW fan, but there's like multiple pages and I'm like, sometimes I'm not sure who they're talking about.
I did ask Pat. I said, I'm doing it, no problem. I said, but do you really think they can't tell the difference between me and Big Dusty?
Like, wait a minute, yeah, is that which Dusty is?
He's like, well, I can't have you getting beat and him pushing him and. Okay, I'm not arguing. I just asked, fair enough. And that was how that happened.
In wrestling Dusty, what was it like being in the ring with Dusty?
It's no different. I mean, he was a little snug
Really?
with that
Okay.
elbow. Yeah,
All
that
right.
elbow was a little snug.
Like
But
when
other
he's
than that,
dropping it, or is he when he's just hitting you?
whether he hits you in the
Okay.
head or he dropping on you, he was a little snug with that elbow.
Mhm.
Other than that, it's just what you'd expect. Great worker. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you, as your role in WWF, would you rather wrestle someone that like you're gonna take bumps and look good for, but someone who's like really green, where you really have to like carry them? Is that just do you feel like just as a wrestler, like you feel more accomplished if you're carrying someone's really green, or being in there with someone where like the Dusty Rhodes, like the crowd's gonna react? So
Yeah, when I went in to the Vince's office, I'd rather follow than anything. It's simple as that, because I could follow anybody. Doesn't mean I was doing it exactly right. Didn't mean my timing was exactly right, but I could follow anybody.
Mhm.
By the time I left, that's a lot of what I was doing was the green guys, and we need you to do this and polish them here, and that became part of my survival for the next. Once I left, I was in the business for another 15 years or so, 14 years, whatever it was, 17. I don't know. I forget now. But however long I was there, that became part of my job. Whenever I go places, was now you got to learn how to walk before you can run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to teach you how to do a 360 off the top rope. I'm not going to be able to teach you how to do a hurricanrana. I'm not diving through the ropes, but I can teach you how to go from point A to point Z. And
do you kind of think that's like kind of why they start developmental? So like
that was
don't
the
have to really
purpose.
train on like on the road.
That was the purpose. By then there was no territories to learn anything in.
Yeah.
But even in developmental, you can't learn if you're not in the ring in front of people. Because just because you're going to talk something out and this looks good, and then somebody's agent has said, let's do this, just because you say it's going to work and you think it's going to work doesn't mean that it's working. And you have to have sense enough to know how to change directions or speed it up or slow it down. You have to have enough sense to know how to do it. And you don't learn that unless you're in front of people.
For me, as a lifetime wrestling fan, there's also a sameness to everyone you could tell does like
that was Bischoff.
Yeah, because there was something fun about someone would come from some other place and like they wrestled different than this other guy, and then you'd see them together, and it would be fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. The different styles, different looks, the different tactics, whatever term you want to use, the difference, the uniqueness.
Yeah.
Whereas Bischoff realized if I create my own stars, which is what Vince wanted to do for years, but couldn't figure out how to do it. Bischoff opens the power plant. I get the guys looking alike. I dress them alike. They go in the ring and they perform alike. I can plug in everybody beyond my top 6, 8 guys. And they're just interchangeable. It doesn't matter. WCW is bigger than the talent. And that's what Vince wanted to do all along. He just couldn't figure out how to do it. Bischoff showed him how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there for a long time, you had guys I call them cookie cutters. They looked good, but they all looked alike. All had same haircuts, same tattoos, that sort of thing.
Yeah. There definitely was an era where they're all like slender, very jack guys, and not the most exciting for me. I like all. Because also, if everyone's jacked, like no one's jacked,
right.
No one's there. If everyone looked like Lex Luger, then Lex Luger wouldn't look.
Where's the unique?
Yeah, right.
What's unique about Luger? Exactly. Mm-hmm. But Vince, for years, even when I was still there, wanted the situation to where you came to see the WWF, you didn't come to see the talent.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely today.
And exactly. Bischoff taught him how to do that. And then when he bought Bischoff, there was nobody stopping him from taking it to the next level. And since then, that's exactly what you've got. It's the WWE and then whoever's plugged in.
So is there like a moment you leave WWF, or do you just not stop getting booked?
Yeah, I quit. I'd been there 6 years, and the money wasn't like it had been, and the bookings were fewer than they had been. And I wasn't going to get a push. I wasn't going to get moved up the ladder. I was pigeonholed. for the rest of my career unless I put a hood on or something. So it's time. And we had a discussion over money one time, and that's when I realized after 6 years that's the first time I've ever had to discuss money with anybody in this office about anything. Everything else is slacked off, etc. It's time to go. And so I just left.
Did they try to keep you at all, or they just
They called me once or twice after that, and after that I haven't heard a word. Yeah, it was like 30 years later. One of the producers called me and he says, I'm going to do a documentary on you, Lombardi, and Horowitz. And they did. And that was the first time I heard from them in 30 years. And then they got bought. They went to Peacock right about the same time the documentary was supposed to be released.
Oh, so I was just going to ask, like, I'm not sure.
They never saw it because I actually asked. Yeah, I asked, and they said Peacock shelved it.
Oh, I would love to see that.
And I asked, well, why? What happened? Was there something wrong? And they said Peacock thought it was a little too dark. It wouldn't fit. I guess I know I wasn't depressing. Or
who were the three guys? Was you, Barry Horowitz,
me, Barry, and Lombardi? So evidently one of them was kind of depressing. I'm not for sure who. I'm not going to name names. I'm just telling you what I heard. Mm-hmm. But they may do it later. We may do it later. It's on the shelf, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't ask ever again, but then like 6 months later, they went from Peacock to TKO or, within a year they were TKO or whatever. And when they went to TKO, I knew that this documentary was never going to see the light of day because then it's like 3 years old already.
Yeah. Did you get along with like the other, enhancement people? Like,
yeah, we were all the same. We knew we were all the same position.
Well, I'll be honest. I've had Mario Mancini on the show several times, and he seems, I don't want to say bitter, but he does seem like he wanted to get like, a bigger role in the company.
We all wanted a bigger role.
Well,
we all wanted that. That's part of the reason I left.
Right, yeah.
I wasn't.
And if you're not, like, if you're compensated well, then if
the money had started slacking off, the bookings had started slacking off. It was getting to where it just wasn't worth it. Mm-hmm. I still was young enough that maybe I could catch a Japan deal, or maybe I could catch something somewhere, because there were still some options in the early '90s. There weren't a lot, but there were some. And so I just left. And then WCW was still around too, and after about 2 years of knocking around, and I was making okay money, but I wasn't getting ahead. That's when I called WCW. Because I realized by then that's my spot, and if I'm ever going to be making money, that's my spot.
So who did you know in WCW at that point?
Terry Taylor. And who else was in the office? I don't remember who else was in the office, to tell you the truth. Orndorff. Orndorff was in the office.
Oh, nice.
And I knew both of them, so.
Yeah, I know you. I know you worked in Herb Abrams' UWF. I don't know if that was before or after this point.
Somewhere in between.
All right. What before we go to WCW, but what was UWF like?
It was the inmates running the asylum, but you were getting a payday, and at this point in time, that was pretty much all you could hope for was making a payday. Mm-hmm. All the guys like that, yeah.
And did anyone think, like, because obviously it was loaded with talent. Did anyone think like
this was doomed?
Yeah,
you knew. Like I say, let's make what we can while we can, because there's no direction. Mm-hmm. Nobody's got.
Were you around Herb Abrams or Herb at all?
Just a little bit, just in passing. Hi, how are you? I always dealt with people in his office. Yeah.
But I know you wrestled guys like Don Morocco there and Paul Orndorff. Two pile driver guys actually, Paul Orndorff and Don Morocco. So. Yeah. Who does the better pile driver, actually, Don Morocco or Paul Orndorff? Oh, I don't know. They're both easy. They're both easy guys. All right. I'm a huge fan of both guys. Don Morocco, I can't say he was a big wrestler, but I always thought, like, he could have been like a world champ guy. He's another one who was his own worst enemy, because he would just take off and go surfing.
Yeah, he would just get tired of the road, and he would just go home and surf until somebody would call him back and, you want to come back to Florida, you want to come to Georgia, or, whatever.
Yeah. So when you go to WCW, like, how different is it from the WWF?
You could tell that there was an open checkbook, and there was no real anchor like you had in Vince's office. Whether you liked it or not, eventually it all ended with Vince. WCW, you never knew for sure who was running the show. I mean, Bischoff was around, Kevin Sullivan was around, Orndorff was around, Terry Taylor was around, Jody Hamilton. You had all these different guys, but you never knew for sure exactly where you were going next. So it was just, I'm gonna go steal as much money as I can.
Was it the same kind of deal, or do you have like an actual contract in WCW?
No, I've never signed a paper. I never signed a piece of paper there either. I don't think I ever signed a legitimate contract with professional wrestling in 30 years.
All right.
Not in wrestling. I didn't sign a legitimate deal ever. It was always a handshake and a phone call.
How did people treat you there? Was it the same kind of deal? Like, the people respected, you?
Yeah, because by then, it sounds arrogant. Most anybody in the business knew who I was. And they knew what I could and couldn't do. And they knew I wasn't going to come in and create an issue for anybody. And so, yeah, I was treated fairly well. Yeah.
Anybody stiff in WCW?
Not that I can remember. It's
nothing that like really stands out.
No, nothing stands out.
Yeah.
No.
So you tagged with Solomon Grundy on the Great American Bash Tour. Like, seems kind of an odd team, but like, was there any like?
It was just one of those things where I got called, and we need you to work with Murdoch and Slater to get a partner. Kenny was in Africa, I think. He wasn't even all right. I had Kenny Johnson with me. So the next person on my list was Grundy. And so I called Grundy. I said, "Can you make these dates?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll be there." That's how that happened.
And so at this point, when they brought in, I think they called them the Hardliners, Dick Murdoch and Slater, and I really liked them because they're just like these like grizzled, like stiff guy, and I liked it. So what were they like to work with, especially Dick Murdoch? I'm a big
Murdoch was one of the easiest workers in the world when he wanted to be.
And your son's name?
Yeah, I gave my youngest, his middle name's Murdoch.
Really?
Yeah.
So you must like Dick Murdoch then.
We got a lot. I mean, we probably wouldn't speak today with everything that's going on in the environment today. But
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, he would want everything great again. In other words.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. But he treated me like I was family. And he didn't show me any of that at that level. He did. I knew he was an old redneck, but I didn't see any of that.
Right. Yeah.
People say they have, and I'm not going to call them liars. Everybody's got their own experiences. I guess I don't think we'd be speaking today.
Yeah. On a personal note, I really respect that about you, because there's a lot of people that I know in wrestling who I've been friends with for years, and they're very much politically different than me, and sometimes it's kind of sad. But I like your post on social media. And
it just he was a night. I mean, Murdoch should have been world champion. Let's just be honest. He should have been world champion. Slater, just depending on the mood he was in.
He's another guy I've heard can be a really dark person.
Yes. If he was in a good mood, you could do 20, 30 minutes and you barely knew he was there. If he was not in a good mood, you had to use your street fights. Yeah.
And I saw, I was just looking at some matches, and you wrestled Roadblock, and why he always stands out to me because I'm in Massachusetts, and he was a big indie wrestler here, Rochester Roadblock, and then I would see him on WCW, and it was interesting because like he's a giant guy, and he won a few matches I think when he first went there. Then it's pretty much
Joe couldn't work.
Okay.
Joe was one of the nicest guys you would ever want to meet. We called him Baby Huey. That's that was the kind of just innocent type guy he was, but he never learned how to work.
So was he another guy? I would assume that would make him very hard to work with too. He's giant. Yeah,
he was.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys you had to love him if you're going to work with him because you knew it was going to be a struggle.
There's a kind of, there's like a video of him wrestling Luger on Nitro that goes around where Luger has to do like 3 times to get him up for the torture rack.
Yeah.
He just keeps dropping him. I kind of feel bad for the I'm like, whoa, he's like a 400-pound guy. He just keeps dropping him.
In fact, that match followed me. They did a thing. It was in South Carolina. I remember what you're talking about now. Well, I forget the town, Anderson or something like that, South Carolina. I'm in the ring, like waiting for my opponent, and this is all dark. This part's all dark, right? Roadblock comes out. I want Luger. What am I supposed to do? So as I get ready to leave the ring, because he's going to cut the promo on Luger, he nails me, drops me, boom, and the referees help me get out, and then that's where Luger comes in. But that was, I was involved in that one.
Did you ever take Roadblock's finisher? Who was very weird. He like would stand outside the ring and he'd hook his arms behind him and he'd do like a backflip through it. And it always looked, I always thought like, God, it looks like he's just totally landing on the guy.
No.
I don't think it was. It did. I don't know for sure, but it didn't look like a finisher you'd probably want.
There's no way he could catch himself.
Yeah.
No, I never took it.
Yeah, someone who's not, I don't know the ins and outs. Even to my untrained eyes, I was like, I think that looks right. But
no, never took it. Not once.
Hollywood Blondes.
Yeah.
So let people, the tag team, how did this come about? And, how long were you guys around for?
I came home from Kansas City in 1984. And I was working in San Antonio. And I had a little heat with Eric Embry, but they were still booking me. And Kenny Timms came to me one day and he says, come to the house tomorrow for lunch. Okay. And he sits down with me and says, Memphis wants a tag team. Eric doesn't want to leave because he's trying to buy the office. And I don't want to stay because the paydays have gone to hell. And that's where we started teaming.
Was memories of the team and like did you have fun doing the team? I know you have that's another like essay or book you have on
we came along a little too late. In the early 80s it was a big era for tag teams, but when we're coming along, and I'm green, I'm not going to deny it, I was green and learning, there was no place for us to take me to go learn. And had we come along, say 3-4 years sooner, we might have actually been able to do something because we could have gone to Pensacola or we could have gone to Portland or someplace like that to where I could get polished up a little more and then go to Memphis and then go to Florida, that sort of thing. It was a good learning experience. It was a great learning experience.
So you said you had a little bit of heat with Eric Embry. Like, what was that about?
The only thing I could ever figure out, and this continued the entire time we were in the business, he wasn't going to have. Well, I know that some of the heat came from later me leaving with Kenny because Eric didn't want Kenny leaving. The only thing I could figure that was prior to that was he just didn't want another heel that was close to his size in the working in. Even though I was green and he wasn't. That's something I figured because I never said or did anything to him. I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
it could be. I could have said something in passing that I don't remember. That's all I can think of.
Eric, was always like a star on where he was, but he never really got a run like on any like TV like wrestling.
It's easy to be a star when you're the booker.
Fair enough. Yeah. So he booked himself as a star. Right?
Yeah, and not that he couldn't work, it's because he could. He was great talent, but you could. Well, Lawler's a perfect example of that too. It's easy to become the big star when everything's built around you.
Do you have any thoughts on Lawler, Jerry Lawler? Did you ever work with him?
Yeah, worked with him with Memphis, worked with him on the independents. Great talent, horrible human being.
Yeah. One of the best punches.
Yeah, he actually was a great ring general, but just he's a horrible human being.
Now, as you've mentioned, being like, sad or bummed about different, events, Hogan and stuff. So, now that you're out of the business, what do you think of your time in it? Like, do you miss it? Do you look back at it fondly? Do any of those things hurt, like your memories of being part of the wrestling business?
Sometimes I miss the camaraderie. And once in a while, I miss the travel. I don't miss the getting there,
Mm-hmm.
but I miss seeing things that I'd never seen before. But I don't miss the pain physically and emotionally because you do miss so much in your life. You know, you're having this life here, but you're missing life over here. I don't miss any of that. It's a mixed bag. I don't regret it. I don't have anything like that. I just look at it. It was a big chapter in my life, and that's I'm on the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with many of the wrestlers?
No, I used to talk to Honky Tonk every once in a while. I talk to One Man Gang about every 6 months. Yeah, but it's just gotten. I don't talk to. I stay busy between the wicked woman I'm married to and teaching. And
I hear it in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear her once in a while. She's gonna make sure she's heard. Between keeping up with her and the grandkids and the 12-year-old and teaching, and I just don't. I don't take the time. I'm one of the worst about that. I'm one of the worst about picking up the phone and calling somebody.
Uh-huh.
I text your buddies.
Yeah, she'll text my buddies to let them know I'm still alive more than I do. Yeah,
well, that's
it's a
good.
true story.
Let Honky Chuck, man, you're still around.
It's a true story. She'll tell them I'm alive and I'm okay. If there's anything I need, yeah, it's true. I'm just horrible about that. It's a family genetic. And that's all I can say.
Yeah. And do you still watch wrestling?
No, I haven't watched a full show. I couldn't tell you last time I watched a full show. I really haven't. Probably since about the time I retired, and I retired in 2010, 2011.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning there? Was it like, okay, I'm out of this business, I don't want to watch
That's
it?
part of it.
Or were you just didn't?
That's part of it. I'm out of business, so what does it matter what I'm watching?
Yeah.
What does it matter what I'm watching? I don't need to keep up with it. I'm not trying to stay in. But then when I would try to watch a full show, this is when everything started becoming performance. We're talking the teens. And I got to where I didn't understand what they were doing in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I
I well agree with you that because I've mentioned on the show many times, like I do prefer wrestling where it looks. Even as a kid, I knew I don't want to use a fake or anything, but I knew wrestling was it was a performance. It didn't matter to me because I know movies. Guy's not getting eaten by a zombie or whatever. Like I still would get into it. I know they're taking physical damage. I'm not trying to put it down in any way, but I liked it when it looked like they were trying to hurt each other. And now I could tell they're doing stuff together. And
exactly now it's less. And then we had that going on too. You go shoot somebody in the ropes, and they were working together. We're working.
Yeah.
But like you say, I'm standing there waiting for a guy to jump off on me. It's things like that, and then I just didn't. And there's no work left. Everything they do is based around what we used to do, but then it's all wink, wink, nod, nod, fourth wall type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like so much of the top rope stuff, and some of it's really cool. Like, and I could still enjoy it. I had to kind of just look in my mind, like, okay, I'm watching this as a performance. I watch it differently than I used to watch wrestling. Mm-hmm. But like, if they get up and it's clear, like they're moving around to hold each other to set up some kind of crazy move. And that really does take you out of it. Like it would be the same way if you could tell someone was acting, I guess.
And the one thing that really gets me, and then these people are making millions, and I'm not. But they get done with this big show, they build everything up, and they get to it, and they run the little angle. Whether they say they're still running angles or not, they do. But then at the end of the show, they have this press conference telling you everything they just did.
That is actually, I think, is one of the worst things that's come about in wrestling. Is I remember, I think it was after the Rock one, and it was like Rock and Cody, and they were legit talking about what just happened and like what a great performance was, and it's like, I know it is whatever, but like, do you have to talk about like as soon as it's over? Like,
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't.
The only one that was like, and it wasn't memorable for a good way, was the CM Punk one, where like it ended up being terrible for the company, but at the time, like, at least it was entertaining.
Yeah, I don't, like I say, and at the end of the day, I'm not in it anymore. And there's not anything in it for me anymore. I don't know half the people, 2/3 of them. I don't even know who they are because I haven't stayed current. So I just no. I just go about my business and do whatever my thing is. Yeah.
And honestly, though, congratulations on even someone not in wrestling. Not many people go back to school in their in their late 40s and reinvent themselves. So I think that's something to be proud of.
I didn't have a choice. I could be that poor, helpless guy living in the street, or I could be that guy that lives in some shack, and he shows up on his little shows that people pity him and give him $30 to show up on this. It was that, or do something different. And then I said, why not use my mind? I've used my body all these years.
Mm-hmm. So what do you are you what do you teach?
I teach history and government at the college level.
Well, great. That's awesome.
I am on faculty at 7 different schools. Only once or twice have I taught at all 7 at the same time. I usually teach 4, 5 in a semester, but I'm on faculty at 7.
And we mentioned earlier about your politics. Does that also hurt keeping in contact with any of the wrestlers? Since
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
I know it does. I know there's guys that I was buddies with that won't speak to me because I'm like, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
They blame your wife.
And they blame her because she came along at the same time. I started realizing that some of this is just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I tell them, no, it's not her. In fact, I'm probably more liberal than she is. They don't want to hear it. I'm like, okay. That's what it is.
I'll put a link up to your book. You have a biography, an autobiography, and then also essays, which are interesting on Amazon, and you can get those on. If you're a Kindle guy, get it for free. If you're a Kindle Unlimited, or most of them's only like the books, a little bit more, but the other ones are like $1. And do you continue to do those?
No, I ran out of having an interest. I wasn't interested anymore, and plus by then I was teaching.
Right. By the way, since you did the Lance Von Erich one, what did you think? Did you see Iron Claw? And what did you?
I saw the movie, and I thought it was. Yeah, the wife just called it a whitewash. That's probably as polite as I could be.
I'm not a fan either, and everyone thinks I am. I would be
because I'm a
wrestling guy, but
I lived through it.
I think the more you know of the real story, the less you like it. I think.
I can't tell you how many times I've been pulled over, and you tell the cop the truth back in those days. That I'm headed to whatever town to wrestle. Oh, the Von Erichs. Next thing you know, your car's torn apart. You're spread eagle like you've done something illegal. I lived it. I've lived the Von Erich legacy. That was the legacy. Where you would call a town when you were trying to help promote a show or two, and they're like, "Oh, we got wrestling, those Von Erichs. We don't want any of that here." I lived it. I don't hate them or have a bad feelings towards them or whatever. It's just the reality is the reality.
Mm-hmm. And the use of Lance in that movie is very weird because MJF played Lance Von Erich in the movie, and you literally see him for like a second, and you wouldn't even know it's him if you didn't know
that had to be Kevin.
It's like, what was the point of him even being?
That had to be Kevin.
Yeah,
that's all it could be. That had to be Kevin. Kevin always resented the Lance thing. He hated it even worse after Lance left, and he still does. That had to be somehow or another. Whatever input he had to be Kevin.
And what was Lance like? And
I love Lance. He keeps trying to get me to come see him. He runs a resort down in Cancun.
Okay.
And my wife was down there, but she didn't go visit with him. She was down there last week, and he's like, "Come see me," and I'm like, "Well, I'm still teaching. I didn't go." She was at a lawyers convention, and he keeps trying to get me to come to Cancun. I keep telling him, "Go to a resort besides Mexico, and I'll be there." Because I don't want to go to Mexico ever again. But
Why
I love,
that?
love Lance. Lance
Okay.
Lance was. He's like the rest of us. He's got his ways, but I love him. He's like a brother. When we were around each other, we were tight when we were around each other.
Do you think that gimmick hurt his chance of doing something else after that?
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't want to either because he had opportunities. He owned his own gym in Africa and he acted in movies in Israel and Greece and some, he had opportunities. He was making money outside of the wrestling business, but it definitely hurt.
Yeah. And why don't you ever want to go to Mexico again?
Oh, besides being strip searched in the middle of a 6-lane highway, not much.
Yeah.
And then,
Some
then it was
people pay for
$200. Then it was $200. After they found nothing, I was still arrested. It was $200 to get out of the back seat of the police car. So, I don't know. Middle of Mexico City, middle of the day, strip searched in the 6-lane road. That's not counting the turning lanes.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
all right. If that appeals to anybody, go down.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be naked in the middle of the highway in Mexico City, just go. I'm sure they'll accommodate you. You'll even get to pay a couple $100 for the pleasure. Yeah.
In Puerto Rico, what was Puerto Rico like to work with?
Puerto Rico could have been a paradise if you didn't have to put up with Carlos and Jovica. I mean, there's no long trips. 100 miles at most, one way. Work 5 nights a week. 2 of the houses were always huge where you were getting a decent payday. I mean, really, for where you're at and the time period, whatever, you were getting a decent payday in those 2 nights, no matter what. But you had to deal with Jovica and Carlos. They're both thieves.
And that's weird that they packed houses in such a small area. So is it just like everyone on the island, wrestling fans?
Nobody knew. They knew who you were as soon as you walked down the street, no matter what city you were in. Yes.
No, so Carlos Colon, you're not a fan?
I'm definitely not a fan of Jovica. Carlos, he liked to play the good cop, but he knew everything Jovica was doing. He was right there with him. They were thieves. It's just call them what they were. Jovica made his money running bootleg into the Indian reservations in Canada, and Carlos had a gambling problem. So I mean, they were just. But sometimes you got to make a living.
Mm-hmm. So, where can people follow you if they're interested in doing that?
Well, I'm on Facebook, and that's about it. I go read X, but I don't do anything on it that much. I really don't. I just read it and see what kind of idiocy is going on today.
Yeah, it's not the most pleasant place, X. Yeah.
Well, there are times where you're just like, and these people breed.
Yeah, it's like all over the world.
Yeah, and they're taking over the world too. Exactly. Facebook, that's where you can find me. That's the only place I really interact. Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I appreciate you doing this. I had a good time talking with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
Yeah, and maybe we'll have you back sometime if you're interested.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to read. You're welcome back sometime if you're interested.
Okay. I don't usually hear that. That's why I had to think.
Oh, you're like, wait, what? The second one? All right.
Yeah. We'll take you back. Yeah, come on back. I don't hear that very often. Yeah. Yeah, sounds great.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'll let you go and thank you for doing
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks to the wicked woman in the background.
Yes, I will.
All right. Bye. That was great. Thank you, Dusty Wolfe, also known as Dale Wolfe. And I would recommend to read his book. It's on Amazon, and there's some different essays. Thanks for the chat here. I'm going to answer some of these questions you guys sent in to me. They're probably terrible, but let's go pull them up. All right. And you can do that throughout the week on the wrestling group on the Facebook page. All right. Oh, and I'll send out the link. You guys can hop on if you so desire. Hit the like button, subscribe, share this out, become a member. It starts only $3 a month. Become a producer for only $10 a month. Like our boys Brian Matthew Cluttar, Vic Schiavone, and Jonathan Jackson. So we got to build up these producers, people, if you want this show to continue. Otherwise, Might be on the last leg of In Your Head. All right, so that does remind me, though, my buddy, my pal, my amigo, my compadre, Brian Matthew Clutter, and producer here of the show, did send some packages. I think they're all from him. I'm going to go grab them. So I'm going to play a little clip of a show. I'll be right back with these packages. We'll open them live on the show. There's 3 of them. I don't know if they're all from him. I know one of them is anyway. And we'll be right back.
Because that's easy. It would have to be, I'm sure it was my match against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 2. But also when I was in World Class the first time, back in those days, Andre the Giant, because they had 25 different territories, he would come into whatever territory, and wrestle the heel. He came down there and wrestled me for a week all around the towns. That was a big thrill. But the first times I wrestled a Giant, and because that was every big guy's dream, and the match against Hulk Hogan, that had to be the biggest ones.
Mm-hmm. What was it like just being in the ring with Hulk Hogan, like at his height of popularity?
It was good, because nobody got the people going like him. All these jabronis on the internet, they can talk about his work rate and his mic skills all they want. Nobody got the people going more than Hulk Hogan. I'm not saying that because I wrestled him. I don't care about that. The Rock was great. Stone Cold was great. Hey, Bruno Sammartino's day was great. But nobody was any better than Hogan. Mm-hmm. Maybe some is good, but I'm not talking about, again, work rate and mic skills. I love those words.
You mentioned Andre the Giant. What was it like? Was it hard to wrestle him because he's so big?
Yeah, it was hard, yeah. He was, for the time, I guess the first time was 82 in Dallas. He wasn't feeling as well as he used to. And then when I got to the WWE in mid-'80s, Andre had a lot of health problems, and, it was hard for him to move around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes he could be kind of cranky, to be honest with you. It was something else. But he never hurt you, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Never hurt you. And God knows he could have. I'll never forget when I was wrestling with him. I'm not sure what year it was. It was Thanksgiving. I was in Hartford, Connecticut, and it was Thanksgiving Day. And I was like a dreary, rainy day. I'm sitting eating my dinner, looking out the window. Nobody was in the dining room for some reason. I guess it's a holiday. Nobody's out at the Holiday Inn. Thanksgiving. I know I'm wrestling a Giant that night, and we were wrestling a cage. So I knew he would be coming off the cage, the top rope of the cage, and doing that thing where he drops his butt on my chest, Let me tell you something. You think Andre the Giant looks big standing next to him? You lay down flat on the ring, let him get up on the third rope, and you see what he looks like.
Yeah.
747 coming down on me. It was something else.
Hey, we are back here. We're going to open some gifts sent to me from someone. We don't know who. Let's find out who sent these in. Live gift opening. If you would like to send me anything, Neil Jones, P.O. Box 415, Sandwich, Massachusetts, 02563. All right. So cut that one. Let's see what's in this thinner package first. Let's see what's happening here. All right. Looks like some I think it might be a magnet, maybe. I thought it was maybe like a card of some kind, but I'm pretty sure it's a magnet. All right. It is a Lexar eating eating fried mozzarella sticks magnet. It's pretty sweet, pretty rocking. Looking very happy there. That is the food that Lexar likes to eat. I believe he while he's at the strip club. That is what he eats. So let's make sure there's a note here. Oh, it's a car magnet. Car magnet that tells you how to apply it. So I'm going to put that on Troy's vehicle next time I see him while he's not looking. And we'll see if he ever notices that he's driving around with Lexar on his car. All right. Next one, I believe, are T-shirts. which are cool. We like t-shirts. You can wear these on the show. And we've got, look at this. In your head, there can be only one. There can be only one. The In Your Head shirt. That's Nasty Neal. And I'm ready to that was right before I decapitated Incher. So people were wondering what happened to Incher. I sliced his head off. I slashed the bitch his head right off. And then look at this. Raw report. Those are sweet. Now you can get these at the bootleg store, which I should get the link for. You get those up on the website. So thank you. I believe these are from Brian Matthew Cluttar. And now we've got another box. I don't know what's in. I don't know what's the name. I did think that one's probably t-shirts. Well, I think this is a coffee mug. People know I drink a lot of coffee. All right. What's on this coffee mug? You know what? They've got like a paper over it, so I can't see what it is, I think. Oh, no. Here it is. Oh, don't Lexar me yet. I haven't finished my coffee. Now, isn't that sweet? I love it. Thank you, Brian Matthew Cluttar. You're a good man. No matter what the rest of the Headyverse thinks of you, especially OIB, you know, let's be honest. He's not coming back. So let's talk about this bitch, the OIB. Biatch. Now, he claims like he didn't quit because of the AI videos. I call bullshit. Let's be honest. Fucking lying bitch. All right. Boom. Grow a set of balls, boy. All right, here. Let's get to these questions. Jonathan Jackson wants to know, what's the meaning of life? I say to enjoy yourself while you're here, because he ain't going to be here forever. What's the meaning of Jonathan Jackson's life? Boom. That's what I'm saying. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Share this out. Become a member. It's only $3 a month. Help support the channel. You can Venmo in. You can super chat. Or you can use the super tip system at that URL right up there. QR code. Do it up. Brian Matthew Clutter, since the Dark Universe failed, should Universal regroup and launch the classic Universal Monsters series and call it CUM? That spells come, folks. Whose leg do I have to break for Jobs to get my address? Job's shirt is in the mail. And address is on the way. Brian Matthew Clutter, was Incher quitting the show all the work so he had time to go film another movie? Damn, look at this. AEW's on now, guys, so I'm obviously missing it, but Dale Wolf was great. Really enjoyed that. The Testicle Sentinel. Mark Wahlberg and Paul Walter Hauser make quite the pair in Balls Up. Don't miss its premiere April 15th, only in Prime Video. Balls Up movie. Damn it! Incher quit the show to get balls deep in some kind of bullshit. Brian Matthew Clutter, as has probably been already discussed, WWE, oh yeah, we did not mention this, did another big round of releases. This is something we should talk about. So there's some new ones here, but let me go pull up the original list. I should have done that a while ago, probably. Not a while ago, but maybe even do an emergency show. We're like, holy shit, these people got canceled. All right. So 20, why does it say 22 plus? Was there 23? Why did it say 23? Let's see here. Bo Dallas. So they cut all the Wyatt 6. All right. So first of all, the Wyatt 6 were, let's be honest, there was a dud. It was a dud stable. But I'm not saying all these people are worth keeping by any means, but they are a $1 billion company. They're going to talk about all the money, that they make, blah, 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 blah. Do you need to, just fire these people outright? I've always, in my opinion is, if you sign a contract, unless you breach that contract, you can't just fire somebody. Otherwise, what is the point of the contract? It's one-sided and only benefits the company, not you. There's no benefit to you whatsoever if you can be fired from the contract at any time. And there'd be really no reason at all to sign a long-term contract, because if they could just fire you at any point, the idea of signing a long-term contract would be like, well, I'm locked in. I'm going to get paid X amount of money for X amount of years. So I know I'm set for that point in time. But then it's why the company who does that, it's like, well, we have him now. He can't go somewhere else or renegotiate for more money. If they can just fire you at any time, they have all the benefits and you have nada. So you would want to sign a short-term contract, because then you're also betting on yourself that you'll be worth more money when the time comes. And why normally like promotions don't want to do that is because you could become a bigger star, then they're going to pay you more money. But they eliminate all this because it's just one side and they can fire you at any time. So I don't believe in these. I don't see what the point of any of these contracts are. So, all right. And you can't just go around rubbing your balls and patting yourself in the back about how much money profits you make and then just fire all these people. It's just shitty behavior. Carrie Sane. No, I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about her, but people seem very pissed. So Alistair Black, I don't like to say, I don't feel bad anyone losing their job, but this is a guy who really went out of his AEW contract, wouldn't do jobs, thought he was, he wanted to go back so bad, so he became a big star, goes back, doesn't shit all, and gets fired. I would definitely not bring him back. Kyrie's, I don't know enough about to have an opinion about if they should go to AEW. Zelina, I think, is a good manager, not a great wrestler. It's also kind of shitty if they fired the husband and wife the same day. Uncle Howdy Bo Dallas, I really thought that gimmick was just a bust, that whole team. I'm sorry he got fired. I don't really see an upside to bring him in. Nikki Cross, I've never seen anything in, to be honest. Santos Escobar, I don't really know. Motor City Machine Guns, from what I understand, that it looks like they are coming into AEW, and I think that's a good pickup because you have some dream match stuff you could do. That's a good fit for AEW. Dexter Loomis, from what I've seen, not really much there. Apollo Crews, actually, I think is one that they could pick up. The guy I always thought was amazing on the indies, and I don't think they ever used him very well at all in WWE. And so I think you could bring him in. I don't think he's necessarily hurt from his WWE run because people don't really even remember it. So you could give him a fresh start. Rowan, nah. Joe Gacy, nah. Andre Chase, I'm not really sure who that is. Zoe Stark, I don't know who that is. Alba Fire, I don't know who that is. Tyra May Steele, Serena Linton, Tyson, Tyreek, Chris Island, Malik Blade, Trill London, and Luca Crucifino. So those would have to be, someone more up to date on who these people are, if they should come in or not. Should AEW bring in Nikki Cross and revisit the superhero gimmick? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Brian Matthew Clutter, would this be a good repackage of Joe Gacy? Let's see. Yeah, Joe Gacy repackaged as Joe Gacy. I say no. I'm not really into this here. Not seeing that happening. That guy looks a real bum, though, I guess. Which RoboCop VHS tape did you buy at a thrift store this week? That's a good question. Number 3. Brian Matthew Clutter, can we get Intro to make a brief return just to present the headies for best AI video? I'm going to say no. You know what? I think we should get AI Intro to do it if we can. Lexar, WWE's released a slew of superstars over the weekend. Here are some of the names. Yeah, we went over this earlier. WWE's called up Joe Henry and Ricky Saints. Here they have. Oh, all right. Yeah, Joe Henry should have been up there a lot earlier. Hopefully they didn't miss. I think they did miss his peak by far, but hopefully they can still get something out of the guy. Ricky Saints, I think should have been just right on the main roster, and hopefully they do something with him. I think he's a potential main event guy. Now, do they use him that level? Probably not. I think he was a better pick than Theory to be the mask guy in the Vision. WWE SmackDown is going to be back to 2 hours later this summer. Are you intrigued? Well, it's much better than 3. Evil has signed with WWE and has made his NXT. Oh, God. And this guy's been wrestling for like decades or something. He's on NXT. Like, you got to keep training, buddy. Last week, Pat McAfee re-signed with the WWE and is re-signed, okay, and has opted out of post-WrestleMania plans. If McAfee would stayed, he would, I think it does mean resign. He would participate in the main event match of night 1 of WrestleMania between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. No, I don't think that was going to happen. I think it was always going to be a title match. A fan of the UK that traveled to Las Vegas for WrestleMania weekend has been found dead. Police reports said that he is last seen at SmackDown and had a picture with Natalia. He said he never went to WrestleMania and died of natural causes. Thoughts? That's terrible. I don't know what you expect me to say. You're like, that's great. This man died. But no, it's terrible. Hello, Isaban. We just had Dusty Wolfe on the show. It was a great interview. Barry Horowitz should be coming on in the near future. Bushwhacker will be here as well. Lots of cool folks, so keep an eye out. Lots of guests coming down the road here. Lexar, Hulk Hogan documentary is released on Netflix. Are you intrigued? I've heard good things. I would like to watch it. Fox Sports host Rob Parker said that he questions why fans still watch wrestling. Thoughts? Wow. I don't know. I guess they must like it, those sons of bitches. Triple H renewed his WWE contract for the next 7 years. Yeah, it's kind of weird to me that he even needs to renew it. You know what I mean? It's like, I just assume he is WWE. But that it is strange that, to think about that it is owned by a legit other company now. So Triple H can be fired. I guess Stephanie can be fired. There could be a time when WWE has no connection to the McMahons. And you could argue that's a good thing, but I do think ultimately it will be a bad thing for the company being owned by a non-wrestling company, because once they get tired of it, it's like, yeah, whatever, let's just get rid of this. Either sell it or we just cancel it, whatever. Where if it's owned by an actual family, you're not going to just be like, yeah, it's enough. Let's get, we've had enough. Let's get rid of this show. Well, I guess they did sell it. Thoughts on Darby Allin's title run so far? I'm a big fan, and I know people say it's bad for ratings, whatever, but as a wrestling fan, I've liked it quite a bit. Do you have any mortal enemies on social media? Just Lexar. Would you be rich and miserable or poor and enlightened? Can I be rich and enlightened? Do you think that me and Anthony Chobo should form a tag team, the Unemployed, and we could come out to a briefcase full of Monopoly money and throw it to the fans, make them think we are rich? Yeah, that sounds good. Who's the bottom in that team, do you think, Lexar or Chobo? Lexar, shout out to the song man, John Garabaridian. He now follows me on my 4th Twitter X account after my other one was suspended. All right, shout out. How many times has Neil got suspended on social media? Too many to count. Are you afraid to touch your things? What? Would you lie to get a job? Sure. That's I was told that's the LA way. You should just lie. Like in movies, they tell you, have you ever done this or can you do that? You just say, yep. Lexar, Shane McMahon was at the president Correspondence Dinner last Sunday and was unfazed at the gunshots. Maybe he's all part of the work. Thoughts on Jim Cornette? Comments on Melania Trump. I've not heard them, but I'm probably in agreement. Which podcast host does Neal can't stand? Conrad Thompson, Sean Oliver, or the British guy with Dutch Mantel? Sean, I mean, I'm friendly with Sean. I'm kind of indifferent to Conrad Thompson. The British guy is pretty annoying, not to say. What I don't like, he always posts these like videos about his opinion on something. It's like, we don't care. We just want to hear Dutch Mantel. If Lexar fell on the floor, would you be afraid to pick him up? That's a good question. There is an old clip of Dusty Rhodes singing Johnny the Good going around the internet today. Do you think Back to the Future would have been as successful or more successful if Dusty had played the role of Marty McFly? Wow. Now that, my friends, is a question. A polka dotted Dusty Rhodes. That would be pretty sweet. In Back to the Future. What is your dream tag team of taking one guy from your childhood and one modern day? Mine would be Charlie Brown from Out of Town and Hometown Man. They would get fans both liked local and outside wrestlers covering both major fan bases. That's pretty good. That's a good answer. Very thoughtful. Who would I think? Who would be a good team? JD Drake and JD Drake and Dick Murdoch. I would make them like this everyday man team. It would be good. Thank you, Richard Fonseca. Incredible interview with Dusty Wolfe. Still the best interviews in the biz. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've made my return to the shoot interview. All righty. Mr. Nikhil Callahan. I think he was having a problem posting these on the group for some reason, so he messaged me. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Become a member. We're on a producer. We're trying to get some new producers here to keep the show running. Keep the lights on here in the building. So you better do it up. A few years ago, his Facebook is blocked. Damn, he must have been sending porno to people. A few years back, Brian Myers delivered the best burn ever on the Brett Major Figs pod. Why didn't you run when Brett got jumped at the Hall of Fame? Myers asked, my eardrums were popped and couldn't hear because Aleister Black and Ricochet were clapping so loud for Hunter. Damn. The Motor City Machine Guns had to go to WWE. They had to try. I'm reading some feel that they fucked over AEW. No, I don't think so. I don't think they fucked over AEW. They didn't go to AEW and refuse to lose or anything like, Rusev and Aleister Black. Yeah, they tried their shot at the big time, and now they have to. I think they could have a good run in AEW. I think they're worth picking up. The Rock getting paid $1.5 million by TKO for scratching himself and then deciding to release a load of people seems very unfair, but also happens all the time. There's people in WWE who do nothing for their money and still chug along. Yeah, he hasn't done shit. He didn't even promote the show and even go out. Even if he wasn't on there, he could have went on, I don't know, the Tonight Show or something and be like, watch WrestleMania. Monday Night Raw debuted in January 93, which I was in the 11th grade. The brand split began in March 2002. Raw operated as a single unified show for 9 years before the split. The brand split era has now been in effect for 24 years. That's really wild to think it's been around over twice as long as just Raw by itself. WWE has spent nearly 3 times longer as a split brand than ever did as a unified one. Millions of fans watching Raw today have never known a version of WWE without the brand split. That's a really wild thing. That's kind of like so many of the guys today Like, they've already been in the company for 8-10 years. They've already been there longer than Ted DiBiase's run or Rick Rude or Honky Tonk Man. And, these are guys you think of as legends that were there forever. Probably a lot of them's been there longer than Hogan. The fall of Taz needs to be studied. Debuts in January with the biggest pop of the night and is running around chasing Crash for the hardcore title. But yeah, it's horrendous. Huge fall. It's like Bundy main event WrestleMania 2, then he's wrestling midgets at WrestleMania 3. Ricky Starks will debut on SmackDown this Friday. You're pumped? I hope he does really well. I'm a big fan. I think he could be a main event guy. Will they use him as one? I kind of don't think so. TKO president and COO Mark Shapiro called the company's embrace of AI a major priority. It's sad times, but you can't fight it. Anthony Bowen has joined the Ops. What? So they split up the team already again, too. Favorite memories of Aleister Black, Apollo Crews, nothing. Apollo Crews, all this stuff before he went to WWE. He was great. Uha Nation. He's one of the most fun guys to watch live. Apollo Crews, I have no memory of. Santos Escobar, I don't know who that is. And Motor City Machine Guns, I guess probably in TNA. All of NXT's premium live events will air on the CW in a deal for 20 programs over the next several years, beginning with this summer's Great American Bash. I don't know. It just split up so many places. Triple H is a huge piece of shit. He knew Aleister Black was burning his bridge with AEW when he left to go back. Black dedicated the rest of his career to WWE. And then when TKO gives Triple H a number to clear, he chooses Black as one of the contracts. I agree. I think I think he has a lot of Vince in him. He kind of gets off on being cruel to people. Brings Rusev back. Rusev didn't want to do jobs, wanted to wrestle more, brings him back. He never wins a match. Billy Gunn angered someone in 2001. We have this great angle for you. You go out there and getting the piss taken out of you for not getting over 2 years ago. And we're also going to nickname you Billy Bitchcake. Sound good to me? Any memories? Yeah, it's pretty fucking rotten. Carlos Silva says it was his decision to pull Leon Slater, Nick Nemeth, and Bear Bronson from their matches and says it's about protecting TNA. Cites AEW running shows on their night is one of the reasons why. If they were hanging out hats for being, it's fucking stupid. Because they had to change the night. It's not like they decided, let's run against TNA. It must have been very strange for all those new WWF fans that started watching in 98 to 2000 to suddenly seeing these guys from the early 90s on TV again, Henning and the NWO. Yeah, if you never watch anything else and you only watch WWE, then all of a sudden they pop back up, that would be weird. 28 years ago today, Goldberg defeated Raven to win the WCW US title to a monstrous reaction from the crowd. One of the greatest nights. Yeah, that was one of maybe Goldberg's best match ever. Raven really put that together. The best use of Goldberg, I would say, really understood how to get a lot out of Goldberg, protect himself, and use all the flock. I would say Raven, maybe the best mind as far as how to use a bunch of henchmen, like his faction and groups. Did the same thing in ECW with the BWO and used them great in the flock in WCW. So there you go. All right, guys. Well, I had a great show. I'll be back next week. Maybe I'll pop up again later this week. Who knows? You never know what will happen here on In Your Head. Thank you, Dusty Wolfe. Great interview. Really enjoyed that. We're going to have the link up to check out his books and follow the man. And I would like to have him back sometime. We've got the 6-hour Maxathon in the works. Barry Horowitz, Rip Rogers, PN News is coming back. It's going to be good times here. So what you have to do is you've got to subscribe. So every time someone comes on or I go live, you know about it. You have to hit the like button. Don't be a bitch. You have to share this out to your friends. You have to leave some comments and help support the show. It does cost money to run this stuff. So please become a member, Super Chat, Venmo, or send a QR code super tip to Nasty Neal. All right. Until next time, this is Nasty Neal. This is In Your Head. That was Dusty Wolfe. And you are the Headyverse. And I am getting out of here.
Andre the Giant. Andre was big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was not small. No, no, no. Andre could drink and he could fight. Drink, drink, drink. And fight, fight, fight. Andre was big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was not small. No, no, no. Andre could drink and he could fight. Drink, drink, drink. And fight, fight, fight. Andre the Giant. Andre was big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was not small. No, no, no. Andre was great. He was not bad. A great big heart and a great big man. Andre was big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was not small. No, no, no. Andre could drink and he could fight. Drink, drink, drink. And fight, fight, fight. Andre the Giant.
From Grenoble, France.